Welcome back to Cracking the Code. I'm your host, Elizabeth, and thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. If you are new or haven't tuned in a while, just a reminder that our partners at Orange Slices post these podcasts for us every month. If you've ever looked into federal contract and thought, this doesn't quite fit under IT, and it's not exactly engineering, but it is definitely professional, then you have likely stumbled into the world of NAICS 541990. But here's the twist. This miscellaneous category represents tens of billions of dollars in obligations over 5 years. Mon is going to help us understand what's actually happening inside of this NAICS. And Rena will tell us what smart companies should do to claim it. So, Mon, when contractors see all other professional, scientific, and technical services, what do they usually assume?
They assume it's vague, and they are not wrong. Structurally, this next code is a catch-all category for services that don't neatly fit into more specific professional codes. But here's what the data tells us: vague doesn't mean small. Over 5 years, agencies awarded well over 20,000 contracts under this code, totaling more than 30 billion in obligations. That's not miscellaneous spending, that's serious money.
So, this is less of a junk drawer and more of a flexible mission support.
Totally. Agencies use NAICS code 541990 when the work is professional, technical, and specialized, but doesn't map cleanly to engineering, IT, or management consulting codes.
Great, thank you. And Mon, I know that you've been digging through the fiscal year 21 to fiscal year 25 data. So, just how big is this other category?
To understand this market, you have to look at what the slides call the Department of War, which most of us known previously as the DoD. They are the undisputed leaders here, as we have seen also on other NAICS codes, with 6,400 contracts awarded over the last 5 fiscal years, totaling over 19 billion.
19 billion. And that's an expensive catch all.
It is, and the Air Force is actually the heavy hitter in terms of dollars, spending 8.7 billion, even though they have fewer awards than the Navy or Army. The Navy and Army are very active with about 1,800 awards each, but the spend is closer to 2.3 billion apiece.
And what about the civilian side? I see HHS and USAID were high on the list.
Yes, HHS is a powerhouse with 4,300 awards and over 5.3 billion in spend. Most of that is driven by the NIH, which has over 2,500 awards, and the CDC, which spent nearly 1.4 billion. In the case of USAID, for example, they only had about 100 awards, but they spent 5.5 billion. That tells you their contracts were massive and likely multi year international development projects. And in that case, you needed to be a major player or a very specialized subcontractor at that agency.
And I just want to interject the USAID spend that Mon just spoke about $5.5 billion that they spent under this NAICS code. Even though the agency may not no longer be spending, that money has not totally gone away. It is diverted to other agencies. The needs have shifted, for example, to Department of State, and there are other agencies who have picked up some of that slack. The spend may not be the 5.5 billion. But what that tells you is if you are a company that wants to diversify into this international market, you've been trying to get into US8 type of work, fantastic opportunity to look at where did this money get diverted. The incumbency advantages that a lot of the established USAID contractors had does not exist anymore. So if you are looking for that diversification opportunity, this definitely presents a great chance for you.
Great, Rena. Thank you for clearing that up and for the insight there. And this is just showing that agencies, it's not that the agencies don't know what they're buying under this NAICS, it's just that the services don't belong neatly in another NAICS code.
Exactly. NAICS code 541990 becomes the home for specialized professional services that are technical but don't fit traditional categories.
And strategically, that matters, right? Because when a NAICS code is flexible, agencies can use it when they need for speed, adaptability, specialized expertise, hybrid capabilities. If your firm does cross disciplinary work, say policy analysis plus technical evaluation or scientific consulting and program implementation, this is often the NAICS code where you land. So, quite diversified in what the needs are.
Absolutely. And now here's something interesting, the small business split.
Yes, and this is important. Across all agencies, small businesses actually receive slightly more contracts than larger business under NAICS code 541990. We're looking at roughly 12,600 contracts to small businesses and just over 11,000 contracts to large businesses. That's a near balance with a slight small business age, which tells us agencies are comfortable awarding specialized professional services to smaller firms.
So this is not dominated by giant integrators.
Not entirely. The big names are definitely there. For example, the Mitre Corporation is the overall leader with over 3.2 billion in obligations, followed closely by Sierra Nevada Company at 2.9 billion. Booz Allen Hamilton and the Northrop Grumman also have over 1 billion each in this space. However, small firms are still very competitive.
And that's the strategic opportunity. The snakes code 541990 is one of those codes where niche firms can thrive. If you bring a very specific scientific skill, unique analytical capabilities, or subject matter expertise tied to the agency's mission, you can compete very effectively. But here's the caution, because the snakes code is very broad, some firms list everything that they do without really defining clearly where they fit in. And that confuses the buyers. That's a mistake. So agencies may use a flexible code, but they're not buying flexible capability. They're buying something very specific that their agency mission requires.
Great, thank you for that, Raina. And Mon, you pulled some specific contract samples. Now, this is my favorite part because it shows just how diverse that this code is.
Yeah, it's incredible. At the low end, you have HHS buying pipette calibration services for $25,000 to ensure lab accuracy, or even smaller, under $10,000 for FDA iRisk software support.
And what about on the high end?
It scales up fast. The GSA Federal Acquisition Service is a massive gateway here. They have a task order for Army Specialized Operations Support worth between 1 billion and 1.9 billion.
And that's the Oasis Plus effect. We've seen Oasis Plus mentioned in the slides as a major vehicle for complex non IT services under 541990. Whether it's C6 ISR capabilities for special ops or AI research for Department of Transportation, this code is where the buyers buy the brain power for their most advanced missions.
Ladies, I saw that the Department of Transportation has a contract for AI and IT's community of practice, and that sounds very 2024 to me.
Yeah, but they do are spending between 150,000 and 250,000 to help state and local agencies share knowledge about AI in transportation. And this exactly shows that NAICS code 541990 is where the government experiments with new tech before it gets its own dedicated NAICS code.
Great. And Rena, let's talk strategy a little bit. If I'm a small business looking at these slides, where is my competitive advantage?
That's a great question. My recommendations would be target GSA and FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. The Federal Acquisition Service, which is under GSA, and the FAA are top sub agencies that spend outside of core military. If you're not ready to do business with the Department of War, you're looking at, hey, or you've always done business in the DoD space and you want to diversify. GSA and has a lot of requirements that come out now. Air Force uses GSA quite a bit under this NAICS code, which falls under the Department of War. But look at being on the GSA schedule and working with the FAA, some of their IDIQs to get into this NAICS code or grow in this NAICS code. They use this code for high-end technical support. Focus on NIH and CDC. If you're a life sciences or technical support company, these two sub-agencies represent nearly $3 billion in spend under this NAICS code. Be a volume specialist. There are companies that, for example, you'll see in our charts, Axel Informatics, they find recurring need, like lab support or technical writing, and win the work repeatedly because they are very niche. It's specialized. It may sound very generic, but the mission is very specialized in what these companies are supporting. And so it gives you repeat buy.
And what about timing? When should they be bidding?
Like many professional services codes, they should pay attention to the end of the year spending spikes as we are getting closer. And in the practice, we're actually seeing how solicitations start getting released because we are getting closer to the end of the fiscal year 2026. And it is the broader story that, and also this next one, an interesting thing that we are seeing is that the next spending keeps a steady year over year activity. So that also gives something to our listeners to rely on for if they are interested in bidding on this next code.
Great, that makes sense. Thank you guys. This has been a great breakdown. NICS 541990 might be the junk drawer, but it's the drawer that is filled with nearly 20 billion in DoD opportunities and billions more in civilian tech.
And just remember to look past the all other label. There's real mission critical work in there.
And if you can do that work that no one else knows how to categorize, you will have a very loyal customer base for a long time to come.
Absolutely. Thank you both. And for our listeners, you can find the full slide deck and more data at videxecs.com. Join us next time as we continue cracking the code.